Welcome back to another FPL video. Today we're going to be talking about the transfer tips heading into Game Week 2 after all the Game Week 1 fixtures have concluded. And there are going to be a few surprising picks in here and a few contentious selections. And we have 4 different categories: buy, hold, sell and skip. And we're going to have 3 players to discuss in each section. But let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. And what you can see on screen is Draft Hound, and if you link your team using your team ID or a few other methods of linking your team, you can then have an automatic improvement to your lineup suggested by Draft Hound once you become a pro pay tier member. So as you can see here, I'm just going to click improve my lineup, and as you can see, it puts Turner in for Onana, and I think most of it does stay the same, but I'm actually considering going for Turner over Onana. Keep an eye out for my team selection video. I'm going to be discussing the captaincy, whether I'm going to go for Turner or Onana in goal, and also my transfer plans. I was discussing this in the reaction stream, and my initial thought was to hold off, but with a huge injury to Tyrone Mings, I am considering making a move because he is going to go down in price eventually, and there are some very impressive 4.5 million defenders to discuss, and all of this will be covered in today's video as well. So be sure to drop this video a like if you enjoy it, and let's get ever closer towards 19,000 subscribers. We're only around 100 or so away, so let's keep on pushing towards new milestones. But without further ado, let's jump straight into this video. The first buy of this video and of the entire season is Ben Chilwell. Usually I'm not a huge fan of him FPL wise because just like Reece James, he does pick up a lot of injury problems, and Chelsea last season were very suspect defensively. But with the signings of Moises Caicedo, potentially Romeo Lavia, and a new manager Mauricio Pochettino, a pretty decent performance against Liverpool as well, I have high expectations for Ben Chilwell so long as he can stay fit, and he was my man of the match in that game. There were quite a few impressive performances, Enzo Fernandez, Luis Diaz, but I think Chilwell stood out the most of any player, and his XG and expected assist figures both exactly the same, and his XGI almost 1 for a left wing back. He was playing essentially as a left winger at times. He had one big chance, created one big chance himself, and he also scored just after the assist he provided, but it was narrowly offside. It was the right decision, and I think Chilwell could be a fantastic option from Game Week 2 onwards, where West Ham away, I wouldn't class that as a particularly difficult fixture with the departure of Declan Rice, and also they could be losing Lucas Paqueta to Manchester City. And West Ham, London derby, it could still pose some problems for Chelsea, but I still think a clean sheet is likely, and I also would back Ben Chilwell to be in and amongst the goals and assists in any given game for Chelsea. So I really like the look of Chilwell, especially in this new system under Mauricio Pochettino. Now they did switch to a bit of a back 5 against Liverpool, and normally he will play a back 4 as he did in pre-season, and I still think Chilwell will do a good job no matter if they play a back 4 or a back 5. So Chilwell is the first buy of the season. He's already gone up to 5.6 million for a reason, and once I got the news that John Stones was out of the starting lineup against Burnley in Game Week 1, I immediately made the switch to Ben Chilwell. Fair play to those of you who went with Diaby in the end. His ownership is around 7.5% now, but he was even more of a differential before the Game Week 1 deadline. And I know it's only one game. We can't take too many conclusions from a game against a top team away from home in Newcastle, but Aston Villa seem to have better offensive assets in Diaby and Ollie Watkins. And at the moment, I think defenders leave a lot to be desired. Now, I think they will improve defensively, and the likes of Pau Torres and also Matty Cash could be decent options. I think Diaby is definitely the one to watch after Ollie Watkins, and that is the top 2 for Aston Villa. And if you look at some of the stats as well, very impressive considering they played Newcastle away, and Diaby immediately scored that equaliser after Tonali opened the scoring. He had 3 shots in the box, 3 shots overall, and 2 on target. He scored, of course, and his XG was pretty decent, 0.53, and also 1 big chance, 2 key passes. Some very impressive stats. Now, it's only early days, and Diaby might still take some time to bed into this side, but I think he's going to have a really good start to the season. He's got Everton at home next. I think that's a plum fixture, and there are some decent games afterwards. Even Liverpool away, whilst Aston Villa might lose that game, I think they'll get opportunities against that Liverpool defence, especially if the Reds don't get that central defensive midfielder that they desperately need. And other fixtures like Burnley away and Crystal Palace at home also wrap up a very decent start to the Premier League season. I was kind of hesitant of going for Diaby because I already had Ollie Watkins, and I also wanted to see what Diaby would show in a game against a top team like Newcastle. And I have to say, he was very impressive, and he is one of the best midfielders to buy, around 6.5 million, and he could be the one to get, especially after the likes of Matoma have worse fixtures from Game Week 4. According to FPLstatistics.co.uk, which for me is the most reliable site in terms of price rises and falls, Rico Henry isn't close to a price rise just yet, but more and more managers are bringing him in, and for good reason. And he was Brentford's best player against Tottenham Hotspur, and he even got an assist to cap things off. His expected assist was almost 1 for a left back. That's absolutely impressive. He created 2 big chances, had 3 key passes, which is chances created, and of course, like I said, he got that 1 assist. His XG isn't really impressive, and I wouldn't expect him to score many goals, but what I am expecting is chances created, assists, and the occasional bonus points and clean sheets. Brentford have some very impressive fixtures up until Game Week 10, you could argue, but especially until Game Week 7 and 8, and I think Rico Henry is one of the standout 4.5 million defenders. He had a bit of a knock heading into Game Week 1, so it was a bit of a doubt, but we all expected him to be back in the starting lineup, which he obviously did, and he also capped off a very impressive performance. And whilst Brentford did leak some chances against Tottenham Hotspur, they were up against a very offensive side in Tottenham, and I was expecting both teams to score in that game. But now, with the fixtures clearing up a little bit, I think Rico Henry could be the best 4.5 million defender in the game. You will have some competition from the likes of Pau Torres, Colwill, and a few others like Udogie from Spurs, but I think Rico Henry might be my number 1 pick to replace Tyrone Mings. It was one of the biggest surprises of Game Week 1 to see Gabriel left out of the starting 11 for the first time after he made 73 consecutive Premier League appearances when available, because he did have a suspension in that time frame. I think he got a red card against Southampton and also against Man City at one stage, but whenever he's available, he has started pretty much every single game for Arsenal, and I still think he is probably the best defensive asset, especially with Timber potentially missing weeks or months of Premier League action. Gabriel and Saliba, it's very close, and I've discussed this multiple times in the streams. For me, Gabriel has the goal scoring ability over Saliba and pretty much every defender possibly in the game, and Gabriel is normally, should I say, the most nailed on. But I think what Saliba has over Gabriel is the bonus points, and when Saliba was fit up until March of last season, he was actually outscoring Gabriel, or at least matching him. It was a very close battle. I would expect that to be the same case this season, and I would be very surprised to see Gabriel left out of the starting 11 against Crystal Palace away. I think Arsenal need to have that physically imposing centre-back in such a tough away game like Crystal Palace is, and have that physical presence to help Arsenal navigate such a tough fixture. And of course, we can't really base any of these stats. We can't even talk about them because there are no stats really. He came on for a few minutes to shore things up against Nottingham Forest, and I think Gabriel will start against Crystal Palace and start pretty much every single Premier League game when available. Of course, there might be more rotation this season for Arsenal compared to the last campaign because there's more squad depth. You've got the Champions League as well, but I think Gabriel will start, and I'd be very surprised if Arteta made the same mistake by dropping him. Martin Odegaard had a good pre-season in terms of performances, but only 2 assists, 0 goals, and that already set the tone, I think, for this season. Of course, it's early days. He can still get a healthy number of goals, but I'm not expecting him to reach 15 goals like he did last season, and I actually would even say it wouldn't surprise me if he didn't get to 10 Premier League goals. Of course, he's capable. He showed it last season, and this is without penalties, but I am expecting a drop-off in goals, as I said back in June, I think it was, and May, but I'm expecting more assists this time round, and the bonus points will be similar, maybe a bit of a drop-off there as well, but still a healthy number of bonus points, potentially the most of any Arsenal player. But you're looking at Martinelli and Saka as the 2 best Arsenal offensive assets at this moment in time, but I would keep hold of Martin Odegaard. I am expecting some returns over the next couple of game weeks, and I don't think it's worth selling him just yet because you might have other priorities like Tyrone Mings, Timber, or another injury in your ranks, and you also might want that added benefit of having 2 free transfers in Game Week 3. So I'd hold on to Martin Odegaard for now, but I do recognise that the likes of Bukayo Saka and Martinelli seem more promising in FPL. The final hold of this video is Ollie Watkins. This seems very obvious, but a lot of people in the reaction stream were asking me, should I sell Ollie Watkins to Joao Pedro? And I firmly say no. I wouldn't recommend that at all. And the only possibility, the only reason why I would advocate for such a move is if that meant you can get Mohamed Salah in the midfield. But that means you're going to be taking a -4 hit, getting rid of Ollie Watkins at home to Everton. So really, apart from that scenario where you're bringing in one of the best FPL assets, if not the best of all time in Salah, I just wouldn't sell Ollie Watkins. I would hold on to him, and I'm expecting him to return very well over the next couple of weeks. Now, while Diaby was the standout Aston Villa asset in Game Week 1, I still think Ollie Watkins is number one and the top dog for the Villains, and he had 2 shots, 1 on target. He also had a decent XG and expected assist figure considering he didn't score and he was facing a top team in Newcastle. No big chances, no big chance created, but also 2 key passes. So some promising signs. He got that assist, and I'm expecting some goals now over the next couple of weeks. So Ollie Watkins is one of the best forwards you can buy in FPL. And while there's going to be a lot of attention on Jackson and Joao Pedro, I still think Ollie Watkins is better. The sells in this video will seem very obvious because all of them have injury problems, but some of you watching may not be aware, but Tyrone Mings has suffered an ACL and he could be out for multiple months. It is a big blow for Aston Villa. They had some good squad depth in the centre-back position with Pau Torres, Konsa, Tyrone Mings, but now one of their key figures, one of their leaders and best defenders is out with an injury. He was in my FPL team, and the reason why I got him in was because of good opening fixtures. He also has a bit of goal threat, can get the odd assist from knock-ons from set pieces. He's very good for bonus points, at least from last season, with 17 and 130 FPL points, and I saw him as one of the best 4.5 defenders to start the season, but unfortunately he's out of an injury, and you can see he already made 1 key pass in the few minutes he played against Newcastle, and he's always a presence from those set pieces, and he's a decent FPL asset for his price. But I think it's worth selling him. He's about to go down in price according to FPLstatistics.co.uk. Maybe not tonight, but I would expect him to go down in price by Wednesday or Thursday. I think that will be the case. So it is a bit of a shame, but Tyrone Mings is a sell. Even right now, I normally advocate to wait until Friday or Saturday to make moves, and I still would encourage you to do so, and also to save up your transfers, so have 2 free transfers in Game Week 3, but it's still worth selling Tyrone Mings to Rico Henry before Tyrone Mings goes down in price and Rico Henry goes up to 4.6 and you're priced out. While Jurriën Timber isn't red flag like Tyrone Mings, it's kind of a similar injury. It could be an ACL, it's in that knee area, and Timber could be out for multiple months. According to some reliable sources, he will miss several months of Premier League action, and I'm expecting that to be the case. But when Arsenal put out that press release yesterday, there wasn't a definitive kind of timeline, and they didn't give a clear, let's say, prognosis of that injury or diagnosis. So I think Timber could still have a chance of coming back earlier than expected, but I have a bad feeling about this. I think he's going to miss several months of Premier League action. He is worth selling, and he's another one. He's actually even closer to a price drop than Tyrone Mings, and I wouldn't be surprised if he went down in price today. I'm not trying to spread panic. I'm just saying what FPLstatistics.co.uk have in the algorithm, and Timber was one of the best players, if not the best, for Arsenal in pre-season alongside Leandro Trossard, and he just seemed like he played for Arsenal for so many years, and he could make that difference defensively. It's no coincidence that when he came off against Man City in the Community Shield final, Arsenal conceded straight after, and against Nottingham Forest, they didn't concede while he was on the pitch, and once he came off, Nottingham Forest had that amazing run and goal, which was finished off by Awoniyi. And I'm not saying Timber would have prevented that for sure, but he does make Arsenal more of a solid unit defensively. So he is a big blow. I was tipping him to be one of the best defenders this season. Maybe not in FPL, but I think overall, I would have seen him in the team of the season, and also to be Arsenal's top signing. But unfortunately, he's out with an injury. He could be out for multiple months, so it's worth selling him and going to Saliba. The final sell of this video is John Stones. He's only yellow flagged. I think he'll be back in the squad as early as Game Week 2, but I'm not so sure if he's going to start. And even beyond that, especially with the Champions League coming along, you've also got the Carabao Cup coming into play. I think there's going to be a lot of rotation for Manchester City defenders, and whilst John Stones might still start 60 to 70% of games, it's still going to be very frustrating to see him being left out. And the good thing about him is that normally when he's benched, he doesn't come on as a sub, but that's still a distinct possibility. And it's very unfortunate because otherwise, John Stones is my favourite Man City defender because of the bonus points, the odd goal threat that he also possesses. And a lot of people will point towards Ederson as the best way of covering Man City defensively, but I'm going to get onto him very soon. And with Man City, I think Ruben Dias and Gavardiol will be the two most nailed-on defenders. I think John Stones and Ake might have the best bonus points potential, and Stones also has the added goal threat. So he might still be the standout for many of you, and that's completely fine. But a move from John Stones to Chilwell is going to be very popular if you haven't made that already. And unfortunately, you probably will be priced out if you've got nothing left in the bank. And John Stones is on the brink of going down in price, so be aware of that as well. So John Stones remains a good FPL asset, but the rotation is always going to be an issue. And I think there are better defender options because they're going to be more nailed on and get more clean sheets as they're going to start more games. So unfortunately, John Stones is a sell. Isak is the most transferred in player this week with over 320,000 transfers in. I like Isak. I think he is a top quality forward, looking beyond the goals even, where he's not going to be the most prolific, but the way he plays is fantastic to watch. I think he's Newcastle's best player overall, but he's facing Man City and Liverpool next. The fixtures aren't that great, even in game weeks 4, 5 and 6, you could say. So with Isak, I would skip him for now. Maybe start targeting him around game week 5, but at this moment in time, I wouldn't bring him in when he's facing Man City next. Of course, Isak could score. He's a top quality player, but his ceiling's going to be naturally low. And you're looking at someone like Ollie Watkins. I think he outscore Isak quite substantially, I'd say, over the next 3 or 4 game weeks. So Isak is a skip for now, but I have to stress, I think he's a great option from game week 5 onwards. And also be aware that there will be rotation between Isak and Wilson. And when they play together, Isak tends to drift to the left-hand side, playing as a left winger, and Callum Wilson will be on penalties. So that's also worth mentioning. But you look at the stats from Game Week 1 against a decent team in Aston Villa, an XG of 1.35, 3 shots in the box, 3 shots on target, a brace of course, and he also had 3 big chances. Some really impressive numbers from Isak, and I do like him in the long term. But right now, I would skip him and at least wait for the Man City and Liverpool games to pass. I am backing Man City to keep the most clean sheets this season, and Ederson should start pretty much every single game unless they have the title wrapped up very early on. But with Ederson, the reason why I talk about skipping him is because of the lack of bonus points and saves, and that's really important for a goalkeeper. Look at Onana yesterday. Whilst he was very lucky maybe to get away with a clean sheet in the end, he was a big reason why Man United kept that clean sheet, and he got 9 points overall, making 6 saves and getting a bonus points. I don't see Ederson doing that, and that's why I wouldn't recommend him. I understand the logic. He is the most nailed-on Man City defensive asset, you could argue, even over Ruben Dias and Gavardiol, but I would still skip Ederson entirely because I could see him maybe getting 10 or 20 FPL points less than an Onana or a Flecking potentially, and Ederson costs 500,000 more than Onana and maybe 1 million more than a 4.5 million gem like Leno. So I think Ederson is worth skipping. You look at the defensive stats though, very impressive. The expected clean sheets was almost 1. Burnley barely created anything significant against Man City, and obviously Ederson kept the clean sheet. And in terms of expected goals conceded, only 0.13. I think Man City have the best defence in the league. The problem is so much rotation amongst their defenders, and Ederson doesn't have a high ceiling. And yes, he might get a lot of 6-pointers, and if he does, that's all well and good. But I just don't see him being the highest scoring goalkeeper in FPL this season. And I also see some of the cheaper options outscoring him. So I just don't see the need to go for such an expensive goalkeeper asset. The final player covered in this video is Eddie Nketiah. He's also a skip, despite having a very good record in home matches. He has scored in 14 of his 16 starts at the Emirates, but he is facing Crystal Palace away, and he is not guaranteed to start even after opening the scoring for Arsenal in the Premier League season. He obviously scored, got 3 shots, 1 on target, 3 shots in the box, and his XG was 0.2. And I have to say, Nottingham Forest defended very well, and that's why Nketiah was quite limited in his chances. But in my opinion, Arsenal played better when they've got Jesus up front, and of course he's injured at the moment. But even when they put Leandro Trossard as a false 9, and when Arsenal went on that 7-game winning streak last season before things tailed off, it was Trossard starting the matches and Nketiah wasn't. So I wouldn't be so sure of Nketiah starting. He's actually, quite close, I'd say, to getting a price rise. Maybe not today or tomorrow, tomorrow, but it could definitely happen later on in the week. And look, he could start in Game Week 2 and even nail on a place for the next few weeks at least, but I don't see him being nailed on in the long term. There are better Arsenal assets like Martinelli, Saka, and also a defender like Saliba, so I would skip Eddie Nketiah entirely, despite the fact that he is a decent goal scorer and has done very well when called upon by Arsenal. So that's it. We've covered 12 players today to buy, hold, sell and skip. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. I'm sure some of you will disagree with one or two of my selections, and that's completely fine. I welcome constructive criticism. I think Isak might be the most contentious one, but I've made my feelings clear about him. Rotation could be an issue, him being shifted onto left-hand side, but more importantly, facing Man City next. I can see Man City keeping so many clean sheets this season and even limiting the likes of Newcastle to few opportunities and goals, and thus the likes of Isak even will have a low ceiling as well. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video or found it useful, then be sure to smash the like button and subscribe for new. Let's try to get this video to over 200 likes. Let's keep on pushing towards 20,000 subscribers and beyond. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, and check all the links in the description below for the Patreon, channel memberships, Discord server, the FPL League, and also Draft Hound. I'd highly encourage you to try out first for free, and if you enjoy it, then use my link to become a pro paid tier member. Thank you very much. Like I said, I wish you all the best of luck for Game Week 2. Enjoy the rest of your summer holidays, and I'll see you next time.